pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Oh, shucks. Savvy investors, you just clued into one of the best episodes. I'm going to go down with flames with this one. I have been trying to get this investor on the radio show since I started. And the reason why is because he's amazing. Because he was the only one that would help me with my apartment building. I bought an apartment building and I was choking out so bad. I wanted to give up at least 3 times in this apartment building and I was dying. I'm coughing up. That's how serious I am. But anyway, I'm trying to give an awesome intro. But for real, I called. Today we are meeting Justin Gentry out of Norman, Oklahoma. Over 100 and something units. Been doing it for a little over 10 years. Crushing it. Just a wonderful person. And my today savior. And let me give you a clue on how awesome this guy is. I was rehabbing this apartment building. And I was running into a lot of investors, and no one could help me. I had a problem with AC. I had a problem with the floor. I had a problem renting the darn thing out. I literally, people tried to buy it from me, and I called Justin up. I'm like, bro, I don't know what I'm doing. And he just was so calm and said 3 things. Said, what are you trying to rent it for? I'm like, $650. And how many, I don't remember those exact questions, but he gave me the most amazing advice, and my apartment building has been rented out since you've helped me, which is incredible. On top of that, I did learn a lesson. I got a little greedy. I was learning how to increase your portfolio, and I tried to raise my rent by $50 one day. Mm-hmm. And I sat vacant for 2 months. But then as soon as I dropped my rent down $50, I have a waiting list again. So
awesome.
I dropped my rent down to $575, and I'm keeping this apartment building 100% occupied with a waiting list, all because of you and your wisdom.
Boy, I wish my family could hear all that. Jeez, that sounds great.
Anyway, so Justin, 2003. Let's get into my normal questions. How'd you get into real estate? Did you read a book?
Oh, obviously, yeah. Everybody reads the same
The Rich
book.
Dad Poor Dad?
Yeah.
All right, let's skip
I read that one and Russ Whitney and like 5 or 6 other ones in about 5 days' time. And I got so excited I couldn't contain myself.
And then what was your day job back then?
I used to interpret sign language for the deaf. My wife is deaf,
right?
So which we didn't know each other back then, but
cool. How'd you meet? So she's deaf. And she's a real estate broker, which is cool because she actually put offers in for me, which is she's a really rad girl.
Yeah.
So you were translating for the deaf,
right?
And how'd you meet her?
Well, through work. I mean, the deaf community is pretty small, so you meet most of the people in it pretty quickly.
Wow! And you just courted her with your hands.
Yeah. Pretty. I mean, it's a small pool to pick from, so I had a leg up.
It is a really. There's a girl in my Bible study who interprets. Started interpreting at Life Church because she has the gift of doing it, and she was led to go to the campus and she interprets every Sunday.
That's pretty cool.
Which is really cool. Not too many deaf people. She's like 2.
Yeah.
And it's like, talk about a small community.
Yeah.
And interesting. So how long have you been married?
Since 2005.
So you were doing real estate before you met her.
Mm-hmm.
So how'd you get in like anybody else? I know the books got you in. Did anybody help you or?
Oh, whenever we started reading, it started out as a family ordeal with my mom and dad, and I guess I could say my brother, but he didn't really want to do very much of it. But anyway, we did a few together, and pretty soon mom and dad decided they needed to go back and do some other stuff. So
buy rental property and hold it or flip it?
Yeah, we tried that. That was back when credit was really good, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I bought everything I could as fast as I could, and before it all hit my credit, so it wouldn't screw up my debt to income ratio.
That's right. Good trick.
So I did that, and all these houses were over $100,000 a piece, and it wasn't but just about a year before I was drowning. Man. So fortunately, the market was good in 2005, and I was able to sell them.
All right, I'm really intrigued about your apartment building. You bought this apartment building in Norman, and what kind of condition it was, and Kind of give us a scope of it, because that's where you really got and you're really an expert in burnouts. That's your two favorite things. You rehab this whole apartment building, and you do burnouts. So that's kind of two subjects that we're going to talk about today. So let's dive into the apartment. Since I'm such in love with you for helping me, how'd you get that apartment building? And it's a sweet deal because I've driven by it.
Yeah, the apartments. I mean, that happened 3 or 4 years ago. We had been doing the houses for a long time again. But we just drove past them one time and thought, golly, those things are terrible. I'd love to buy them. And then it wasn't but just a few months later I had lunch with a guy, and he asked me, do you know where Noble's at? And I said, yeah, I know where Noble's at. And he said, well, I've got a lead down there for you. So it's like, hey, awesome. So wound up about 4 months of harassing the seller or the owner. He finally emailed me back.
Like you just said, hey, I want to buy it. It wasn't for sale?
I want to talk to you about it. Because I knew he was in pre-foreclosure. So,
was it a local bank?
No, it was some bank out of Florida.
Okay.
And he lives in California. So it was just calls and emails is all I could do. And finally he answered me.
Cool.
And he wanted to talk about it. And so pretty soon he let me take it over subject to, and I did a short sale. And
that's awesome.
that whole
so
process took
Oh,
about
by the way, I did a subject too. I just assumed his financing. Did you put any money down? Did you give him anything?
No. You
are a gangster.
No, he
where have you been my whole life?
It was pretty cool, but it took about a year to do that short sale.
And what was the occupancy rate at the time? Where was this thing? Like, was it renting it out? Was it deferred maintenance?
Terrible. I mean, it was awful. So basically, I took it over, and there were 5 renters there.
Out of 40 units.
Out of 40 units, there were 5.
So that's like 8%.
So I took it over and had everybody start paying their rent, and any obviously it all went right back into water heaters and crap like that.
Mm.
But and we just kept renting out a few more of them super cheap just to get the occupancy up, raise the revenue, to start taking care of the people there.
Did you start rehabbing it like a building at a time? Is it one building?
Well, we waited until the short sale was done. So
did you have to get financing for the short sale?
Well, after it was done, yeah.
And you used a local bank for that, right?
Yeah, I used a local bank for that. So I think the mortgage on that thing was $650,000, and the bank took it in the britches on that one. It was we paid $200 for it. So
but you took it. You were paying the payment when it was at $600,000.
No, I wasn't paying any payments.
So okay, you got it under contract. Basically, got the paperwork together as subject to.
I got a deed.
Right, and then you just said, "Look, you just said, hey, this thing is dilapidated. It's going to go down fast.
Yeah,
but I'm willing to give you cash.
Yes,
and let's short sell." And that took a year. So that guy walked away basically, and he wasn't paying at all either.
Well, I gave him a check at closing.
Well, for what difference? Like the $400 or something?
No, he wanted
$400,
$20,000.
So after a year later, he got $20,000.
Yeah.
Was it just that set up in the docs? Like you offered him, I'm going to give you $20,000 if I can get this under contract?
Yeah.
Or sold or whatever?
Yeah. If we could close it. Originally, I was supposed to pay him $30,000.
Wow.
But it wound up, negotiations went pretty rough on one part of it. And
darn right. I can't, I'm just still trying to calculate this. Let's recap this. You found this property. Some guy was not paying the payment on. It was in foreclosure, pre-foreclosure. You found it. He finally got a hold of you. He's out of state.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I want to take this over subject to and control the short sale.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, for that, for you signing the docs over to me, the deed, I'm going to give you $30,000 if we can close this deal as a short sale.
That's it.
So then you have control of the asset, right?
Correct.
Then you went to the bank and beat the bank up for 6 to 8 months,
mm-hmm.
and then from there, you got it down to $200,000, and then the seller was probably all weird, wanted more money, and that's where that negative negotiations come in.
Yeah,
and that's how you just said, okay, take 20 or take nothing at all. Okay, because that's how I would play it out. But I'm just assuming.
Yeah.
But we don't need to get into that. And you got that. So you got $20,000 finder's fee. You got $200,000 apartment building, which is like, if I can do the math quickly, it's like $5,000 a unit.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. When I drove by there a couple years ago, it looked like $40,000-$50,000 a unit. Probably 35, 40.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it would get 30.
It's worth what, like $1.2 million now?
Yeah.
And you put like 400 in it?
I had to put 6 back in it.
So you got roughly 8 in it
mm-hmm.
total. Still $400,000.
Yeah.
And that bank that financed it isn't right around the corner. The reason why I know all this stuff, folks out there, is because I deal with the same bank that you deal with. And he kind of was so excited about that property as well, because they're just so happy that someone actually took the reins and turned a dud into a star.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to do as a creative finance real estate investor, which I'm super impressed, Justin. I don't know if we have enough time to go over. I can't believe you just popped out a creative deal right the first thing off of the radio show. Man, all right. So I like this snappy thing. Let's go into burnouts. Why burnouts?
Man, I had several years ago, somebody turned me on to one, and it wasn't really a burnout. It was smoke damage at that time. Went through that, and then a few months later, an investor sent me one because everybody heard that I did one. And it was terrible. I mean, it was as bad as any of them I do now. Probably 60% of the roof was gone and all that. So
charred?
Oh, yeah.
Water damage, like broke into, like from the fire department?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it wasn't just broken into, it was caved in.
And you buy these things for the lot, basically?
Yeah.
Is that, how do you define what it's worth?
Basically, the only way you can define those is based on what it's going to sell for minus your profit and expenses.
So like a normal deal?
Such as?
Like any kind of deal, you just figure out what the ARV is.
Yeah,
and
I figure out what it's going to sell for, and then how much this house is going to cost me to rebuild.
Okay, so but the margins are not there though, because usually it's not worth as much as it is to rebuild, like brand new.
Correct. That's why if I have to scrape a lot, I can't do it most of the time.
My mind, I would think, and I'm ignorant about burnouts, and every time I get one, I call you because I'm like, I almost bought that one in Edmond. You're like, I've already been there. I was like, okay. He was like, you got to get permits. I'm like, oh, I'm out.
Yeah.
It's like Edmond doesn't fool around with electricity, but all right. And so I was like, I'm out, but it looked cool. But my question, how I looked at it, I haven't done a burnout yet, but I was like, okay, the lot's got to be worth 10, 15,000. I'm going to have 30, 40 in rehab. I'm assuming I want at least $20,000 to $30,000 worth of profit. Mm-hmm. But you do it the back way. You do it.
Yeah, that's the only way you can do it, because I run into that all the time where people say, well, the lot's worth this much. Well, it doesn't matter what the lot's worth, because that lot, that house is going to cost so much to rebuild. I mean, that's just what it costs.
And you find margin in there.
If the after repair value gets below about $80,000, it gets real hard to do one, just because there's just not enough margin left typically. Like
the total ARV of the home is 80.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
70
your sweet
to
spot.
80. That's not the sweet spot. That's the lowest point typically.
Okay, so it has to be at least 80 and above.
Yeah, usually for the numbers to work. I've bought cheaper houses and I've made them work, but it's hard once it gets below that point.
Okay, and I guess it would determine location and if it's proper, popular and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, how many have you done of these?
I don't know. It's been
30, 40?
No, it's well over 100 of them now. We've been doing them for several years now.
And are you in cahoots with Paul Davis and these remediated places? How are you finding these deals?
Now a lot of people just bring them to us.
Just like me.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a burnout.
Yeah.
Call Justin.
Yeah, we advertise some too, but a lot of it's word of mouth.
Okay, so let's just walk me through one. It's $150,000 ARV. I'm assuming right out the gate it's going to need 60.
Yeah.
I'm just foundation. I'm not foundation, but stem, wall,
I have
roof, deck.
I've done $150,000 houses that needed as little as 40 worth of work and as much as 100 worth of work.
And you don't find that risk in there. Is there any kind of weirdness with insurance? When you sell it, do you have to disclaim that, hey, this was a burnout, like an orange
Oh, yeah.
title?
We tell absolutely everything we know about the house. Because if somebody comes there and wants to buy that, I want you to know everything that you ever want to know. That way you don't come back and try to sue me or something like that.
So you disclose everything?
Everything.
And so your wife, Courtney, who's the bomb, if you haven't met her, she's so cool and fast and furious on the email. I sent an email, and 10 seconds later, she's on it. And she lists them, and she runs that whole aspect. So you fix them, you find them, fix them, and then Courtney sells them.
That's it.
Awesome. And she finds them that way too on the MLS as well?
Sometimes, yeah.
Is there a specific market that you're going into, an area, or just the margin, the number is what you're looking for?
Just an area that's sellable, an area that people want to buy and live in. So, I don't work on the northeast side. And
hey,
Sorry.
That's my neighborhood.
As a part of, down in southeast Oklahoma City, Oak Cliff, all that stuff, it gets pretty tough to work down there because people don't want to buy them to live there. That's landlord property. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of the
I
east,
got some down there too.
Speaking of the east side, so Justin calls me one day. It was really fun negotiating with you. You were the first real negotiator investor that I mean, we must have texted 100 times over a $20,000 house. $25,000, I think, I closed it for
6 weeks.
You were probably playing me. And here's the deal. So Justin's like, he has a bunch of rental houses all over, and I think at this time you were trying to consolidate.
Yes.
You're like, hey, I'm done with this area. I have died enough over on the east side, and I know you buy over there, and I do. And I think I hit you with 18.
14.
So, but I think it was based on what you bought it for. It was like 14 or 18, and
I paid like 11 for it.
Yeah, so I was like, and of course it needed a roof. Oh, he had a tenant in there, no condenser. I had an evicted tenant right out the gate, and so we were back and forth. It was just a funny thing. Eventually, it was difficult, but you did let go and sold it to me, and you probably made money and you were happy. And actually, you had a hard money lender on it.
Yeah, that Kruger was on that one.
Yeah, interesting.
That one was on the top of the debt snowball. I was about to pay that sucker off, and you bought it, so.
All right, back to the...
I was happy about that.
Yeah, appreciate that. And I'm rehabbing it right now. I've had a few tenants in there. East Side has done me interesting through the years. Anyway, so back to burnouts. Does that turn into like tornadoes? Because like more...
Yes, I love tornadoes.
And you're just killing it in that neighborhood. Even some contractors I know that are not even doing what you do got some houses in that neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And so you just went in there and just went to town, set up camp. How many houses did you do over there and more?
Actually, I didn't set up camp. I kind of stayed away from a lot of it because we had so much going at that time. But, I mean, over time, I wound up buying 6 or 7 of them down there.
And you sold them all?
I kept a bunch of them.
As rentals?
Actually, I think I sold 2 of them, and I've kept 5 of them.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so what's your plans now? What's your goals? Where is this going? To me, I love that you're knowledgeable. You're very passionate about learning. You want to do more. You want to help people. That's why you're on the radio show. What is your goals now? Like, what do you want to do? Is there more units? I mean, you already have more than enough. Well, that's never enough, but because I know you want to bless people and do more things. But where's your direction? Is it commercial? I'm graduating from single units to multi. You've already did that. That was you rehab 40 units. Mm-hmm. You've kind of dominated in the burnout deal. No one else does them that I'm aware of. Yeah. Very few guys. Where are you headed now?
We've branched off into new construction over the last year.
Wow. Just as a challenge?
Yeah.
So, cool. Like, are you developing a land?
No, I haven't gotten development yet. I just wanted to start building new stuff too. So we're starting a new construction company separately, but I think this next year we're going to start turning out more rehabs. I want to get pretty aggressive with the marketing and start turning out more of those. For
investors or just for any
just flips, rehab flips, retail flips.
Retail flips. Okay. So you've done a new construction. How many of those houses have you done?
We did the first one last year, and I'm about to wrap up 3 now.
Wow. What's the specific neighborhood? What neighborhood?
Those are over in Choctaw.
Okay. What's the square footage? What? Give us some numbers. Great. You're a builder now. Okay. Why? I heard it's not fun. I actually have another friend in St. Louis that has started with 1, now has like 6 going, and it says it's easier, but he doesn't do rentals anymore. He's building them, and his motive is he's building 3 beds, 2 bath. It's like 100, and there's a sweet spot, 145. I think he's got like 90 or 100 in it, or somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. And if he can't sell it on retail, he's going to rent it out for $1,200 a month. Yeah. That's his kind of his. And then 1031 exchange it or hold it for a year, and I don't know. It's way over my. When you said the word building, I get lost in translation. But
I mean, the minor, I don't know a whole heck of a lot about it yet. We've got 21 to 2,500 square feet. And
they're pretty big houses.
Yeah, they're a little bit bigger. So they're going to wind up being just almost $300,000 when they're done.
Dang.
So we'll probably make about 15% on those.
Not too bad. Did you spec the house, or are you building from plans? Did you create the plans?
No, I bought the plans and just built the house.
Brick frame. How much is a square?
They sell for about $125 to $130 a square foot.
That's what's average in a nice area. Is that acre lots?
Yeah, 1 acre lots. I was going to build more next year, but I'm just going to kind of pull my horns in a little bit and wait till these sell before I start a bunch more. I bought 5 more lots, and I'm just going to wait a little bit.
Have you connected with Pat? He's trying to develop over there.
Oh, yeah. Pat's one of my mentors.
Okay, right on.
Pat's the bomb. I love that man.
Yeah, he loves the radio, too. He's like, I got another episode going with him coming up pretty soon called Options. Mm-hmm. Because he's, I don't know if you listen to the podcast, but he went his whole development over on Choctaw, and that's his thing. He wants, I heard the other day that he wants to sell a lot of his rentals and just develop land. Yeah. So you guys are going to be like twins over there.
Yeah.
What made you pick Choctaw versus Norman more, where it's super duper hot and there's still land out there?
Well, the one that I built last year was actually for my parents. It was a custom, and I live in Norman, so we built there in Norman. And I've done several rebuilds in Norman, and it's a pain, really. There are easier markets to build in.
Sure.
And I didn't want to get into more because of the market was a bit saturated from all the tornado rebuilding going on. So for me, Choctaw was a reasonable drive, and it's a good market, and it's more dependent on tinker and all that stuff instead of oil prices. I mean, it goes a little bit different way than other places do.
FYI, just good news. I went to a bit housing planning meeting or whatever I was at, and Tinker's on gangbusters on fire. They're hiring tons of people. The oil industry is laying them off, and Tinker's hiring them. Yeah, which is really cool, and it's not hurting our unemployment, and people are still staying and hopefully buying houses in Choctaw. Yeah. What other question did I have how about your workers? Are you using the same type of the people that you're using to rehab your houses, like handyman per se? Are you just segregating it out to just framers? Yeah,
that's one of with our rehabs, we like to get the biggest, nastiest one we can, so we can segregate each of the trades. Because, I've got 2 or 3 crews that I can run just pretty much all the time, but I've also got framers that I can call, sheetrockers that I can call, individual trades that I can call, and it goes a little bit cheaper that way. The reason for that is if you can get demo back to a certain point and then take it from there, it's pretty easy to call somebody and say, just do this. That way they're not saying, well, we need to have wiring put in over here. They're not trying to put in a line to put in an outlet, and they don't really know what they're doing.
Sure, trying to milk the job.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Makes things go smoother. You can follow schedule better. It's easier to manage.
All right. You have all the success. What have you learned? You're talking to a guy like myself. When I called you, I was a rookie. What pains have you gone through, just in overall as a real estate investor?
Where do you start?
You're all calm, cool, and collective. I'm like, dang, I'm trying to get you to juice up. I'm like, I'll just build a few houses in Choctaw. You have a propensity for some pain like I do, but what have you learned? Like I'm learning a lot right now on accounting and taxes and bookkeeping, and I blasted someone today, like trying to just say, don't do what I did. Don't wait 20 years later.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
To get my money in order. Not my money, but like my financial forensic accounting, 3 types of bookkeeping. A lot of things I just ignored or didn't want to pay for. I'm eating it now. Yeah. And if I could go back in time, pay the $50 a month or the $25 or whatever and hire a bookkeeper and get that ball rolling. But
yeah, one of the biggest things that I learned over time was not to take on too much debt. Not to over leverage your properties.
Have you gotten stung in that?
Oh yeah, that first round of houses I did back in 2003. We just owed way too much for what they were going to bring in. That's why we had to sell them. After that, we started buying stuff cheap, and I still paid a little bit too much for some of that. So that's why we're super aggressive on snowballing the debt on our properties. I want them paid for.
And just for peace of mind.
Yes. What can you do if you've got $20,000 coming in per month or 30 or whatever it is that you have no payments on? It's just straight cash flow. How fast can you invest that?
Sure. It does snowball.
Yeah.
We talked earlier about the east side. You had a house that I bought from you that was from Kroger, whatever his name is. What made you do that at the time? Why'd you use hard money? And now, obviously, you don't use hard money at all right now, right?
No, I don't at all now. Everything's either cash or banks now. Back then, after we had sold all of our properties, my credit was pretty rough, and the lending market was in the tank back then. So trying to get started back up, it was just...
So you reinvented yourself? You kind of just shut the deal down?
Pretty much. Had to.
And then you just built it back up?
Yeah, I mean, there for a while I had to partner with other guys 50-50, and then finally I started being able to get hard money loans again, and then now we're back to where we are again.
Wow.
That took a while.
And you're still here?
Yeah. But like you said, learning how to do the books, learning how to keep up with all that stuff, that's a vital part. You better know your numbers if you're going to do it.
I haven't had the need to do the hard money. I always have a question like, man, I'm paying, and I really don't worry about the interest. Did it ever occur to you like you could go to a bank? Did you really know that you couldn't get a loan? I mean, I know there's...
Oh yeah, I made it a practice. I had these huge binders that I made with all the properties we had flipped and all of my financials, even though I had no clue what was in the financials. I would print that sucker out and put it in that book.
I have that same... So, even today I got my finances back from the account. Am I doing good? Because I don't want to read this. But anyway.
So I would go to 4 banks in the first several rounds I probably went to 30 or 40.
Wow.
And they would all tell me no. So I would give it a little bit of time, and I would do it again.
Like, what would they say no because of your income to debt ratio?
Yeah,
or this is leverage too high?
Yeah. And then after a while, it got to where I could go into them, and I would get 1 yes out of the 4. And then after a while, I would get 2 yeses out of the 4. And now usually I can get a yes. But now...
now people are courting you. We're meeting a bank right after this.
Yeah.
He wants your business.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're getting a free dinner out of this mother. He can't even hear this right now.
Thanks, John. Thank you.
And the great thing is that the Beckers don't even listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm going to have an episode of them blast bankers, and they're all going to flip me off. But it's so cool because we have a similar road. You just seem more hands-on, get after it, whoop tail. Do you work on the houses yourself in the beginning? No,
that was something that my family are farmers. So, we grew up, you take care of everything yourself. You do everything yourself. So it has taken, that's one of the hardest things for me is to back off and find somebody else to do it. Because there's a certain limit. You're never going to get past a few $100,000 per year revenue if you don't learn how to systemize and employ other assets, other people to do your stuff. Just never going to happen.
Now, I might be confused with Russell Hunt. Are you looking for a foreman too? Because Russell Hunt was looking for same position. He's looking for a foreman.
Yeah, I'm going to have to find
someone to run the deal because you can't keep up with it.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's become enough now that I can't get around all the jobs every day.
And you don't, and you do all this.
I don't want to.
And you do all this all yourself. And you have houses from Midwest City all the way up to Northwest Side, and you're building in Choctaw.
Yes.
And you sleep at night. Walk us through it. Listen, all right, guys. We didn't prep this interview, so I'm lost for words. I get lost in translation here. Let's just try this one. Walk me through a day, a normal, typical day.
Well, my day's pretty easy, really, because I don't do anything with the rentals anymore. That's all in the office. My office manager takes care of that. I don't see it other than what's the vacancy rate and what are the expenses. That's about all. I'm
in the same boat.
It. So she takes care of all that, so I don't have to worry about that. And
so you're free to do what you want to do.
Yeah. So this last year, it's been about once a week I go hunting, just pretty much all day, maybe twice a week. But
lucky.
The days that I work, I get up and go check on the new houses. I've got another restoration in Choctaw. I'll go check on that when guys are working there.
So you get in your truck, get dressed up, and I love you always got a We Buy Houses sweatshirt on since I've known you, or T-shirt. I think it's in your wedding photo.
I got the polo on today, so I dressed up for you, buddy.
But I remember I ran into you at the fair, and you had a We Buy Houses. I'm like, does that work? It sure does. So you wake up, all right, you got a plan. You're driving around. I'm like, do you check on job sites every day?
It depends on what's happening. Not every day. If things are happening like demo or whatever, that's where you have the potential to lose a lot of money real quick if you don't show up. So right. I'll check on it then, and then other than that, usually it's going to be every other day roughly. Sometimes every day. It just depends on who's there and if I think they need my attention. A lot of that's more about just me being there to serve my guys.
Cool.
A lot of these guys have been working for me for 10 years, and I love them, and I love being around them, and I love to take care of them. So.
And usually on each job, do you have a guy that, excuse me, that is usually a lead? You kind of let him do his thing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I usually don't have to be there very much, really. I don't stay around there to watch them work at all. I mean, I just show up and, hey, do you guys need anything? How you doing? Sometimes I go buy them lunch and bring them back. And
do you ever? Okay, that sounds good. Do you ever see yourself ever retiring?
No.
No.
I would blow my brains out if I retire. I don't know what do you do.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to fix houses. I love to build houses. I just love messing with them.
Right. And you have a passion to help people and to mentor people. Okay. Yeah. What would be the ultimate day for you now? Hunting every day, every week?
No, I love to hunt. I mean, I absolutely love it, but I can't do it every day. I got to do something else. I mean, the ultimate would be if I could bang out 50 or 60 rehabs a year and build 20 houses a year. I mean, that's where I want to go next.
Yeah, so now you just need to scale it up. Now you just need to have a business manager with you, or just more staff that you can help and grow together and just conquer it.
Yeah, well, we're getting pretty aggressive on systematizing. I never know which word's correct for that.
Systemize.
We're getting aggressive with that, and then after that, we're going to bring in the staff to accommodate that. Man,
my mind is going ballistic. Okay, let's go. What book has impacted you besides Rich Dad Poor Dad? Is there another real estate book that you mentioned? Russ Whitney. What Russ Whitney book that stands out?
Oh, I can't even remember. It was one of his books, and I didn't really even like it that much.
It got you motivated. Okay,
yeah,
how about the creative aspect of financing? Where'd you come up with the idea subject to that apartment building?
I mean, I learned how to do subject to several years ago through the real estate investors group, and then have employed that several times. I've bought several houses.
Do you currently have subject twos rolling right now?
I think I've got one left out of all that.
Has any of them ever kind of gone sour? Like, actually a friend, I don't know if he did that burnout, but Dutch had one go down where the place caught on fire. Yeah. It was an insurance situation. It came out great because he was able to sell it, cash out, actually made money out of the deal. Mm-hmm. But I've also had some other friends of mine that have had subject twos where there was a bankruptcy that was kind of funky, kind of screwed things up, and or an insurance claim that, the check was written to the old owners. Well, they're still on title, not on title any longer, but they're still the owners per se. Yeah,
I kept that one. I've never wanted to keep them around very long.
So they're just a temporary, just control the asset, try to sell it, or sandwich it, or do something else with it.
If I take one subject to it, typically going to be a rehab project, something I can just turn over pretty fast.
And you put the money in it, you take the risk. Yeah. And then you try to sell it for...
if I do it, I'm going to be that confident that I can do that.
And there's equity in the deal. Because the subject twos that I come across right now, they're so skinny. They're like $1,000. They're behind 3 months. Okay, I have to catch you up $3,000 or a couple thousand. And then, you still have $2,000 of deferred maintenance. And then I got to put it on the market, which is like what? How many days are you turning houses? 60 days?
Yeah, it depends on the neighborhood. 30, 60, 90 days, something.
Right.
The neighborhood always has its own average.
All right, let's kind of wind this down because there's so many subjects, man. You've got to come back on here. I'm so glad that you came and finally got to experience you to come. Since you do a lot of retail stuff now, I just closed a retail deal, flip I did, and which was really weird, where the buyer, I'm the seller, and they had to go sign docs at the bank and then wait 3 days to actually physically close. And it's a new HUD. And it's a bunch of regulation for them because I'm in the investor world. I buy and sell in to investors, 11 investors. That's what I do. I'm not a big fan of retail. You seem giddy about retail, but you also have a great wife that is a broker. I mean, you saving on commission, and you're getting it done. Yeah. Have you had any weirdness on the new regulations with banking? Any deals have fell through?
I haven't had anything fall through. And it changed everything just a little bit. I kind of expect everything will probably settle back down and get pretty close to the way it was before after a few months. But right now the problem is there are so many parts of those regulations that even the bankers, the title companies, nobody really knows how to interpret them. So there's a whole lot of CYA going on.
Sure.
So that means things are just taking longer. People are just making sure they're following the rules. But as far as making things bust, I haven't had that yet.
All right, so this is like one official really retail flips, and so this is just a random question. So I got it down. I'm going to go into a podcast one day on this because this really chapped me. I had the price for 110. I dropped it down to 10. I had it at 115, dropped to 110. The girl was like, "I'm FHA approved, but I need help with closing costs." Mm-hmm. So I rolled, gave her like a $5,000 concession. In my mind, okay, I'm selling it for 105. Mm-hmm. So we're going down the road. Everything's going great. She's pre-approved. Then it was switched to conventional. So I'm a little kind of frustrated. Hey, I gave you these concessions. Okay. I mean, I've heard that's pretty common.
Yes.
That's pretty common in retail. That's why I'm not a big retail fan. So then, it's like kind of sleight of hand. Like, look, just pay 105. That's why I like investing. Mm-hmm. But here's the weird thing to my question, and has this happened to you? I'm about to close. It's 3:30 the day before closing. The buying realtor was like, "We want you to honor the appraisal." Oh, okay. She's like, "The appraisal's at 105. Okay, because I have an appraisal 3 months earlier for 109. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, my realtor didn't know I had an appraisal.
Yeah.
Because I just don't like to tell anybody anything unless they need to know basis. Have you had that before where they just, and when I was really just irate because now you're trying to beat me up at the last hour? That's my one question. Have you had that happen to you? And is that normal? And that's not normal. Have you had that happen to you before?
Yes, I have had that happen. And it's gone both ways before. One time I had it happen and the assessor was off by 500 square foot on a house.
Cool. So
I wound up having to eat $8,000 that time.
Oh, that's not cool.
I mean, they were right. I mean, it's just the footage is not there. The value's not there. The money's not there. It's just not there. So,
wow.
Okay, so we just ate that one, and I've had it happen several different times. But another time we had it happen, and I knew they were wrong. I knew the appraiser was wrong. We're supposed to close tomorrow. Hey, the appraisal came in $10,000 short. So guys that just sold last year for 114, and your guys coming in at 103. I know you're wrong.
The weird thing,
fix it or I'll sell somebody else.
Two things that I learned in that deal, because I had to call Dutch, and I was like, "Dude, what the freak?" And he's like, "Well, it could be the lender's fault." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, because I was like, I need a copy of the appraisal. I don't believe you. This is BS. You're trying to railroad me at the end of the line, because I need to get paid, and you're trying to jerk me around." And they had the appraisal for a month before. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, we're just going to bring this out.
Yeah.
But I found out that houses that are like 90 to 115 need a lot of this. It's to the penny, and there's no wiggle room. Like they can't even afford closing. Mm-hmm. Do you deal with a lot of that? What's your sweet spot and what you're retailing at?
Most of the stuff that I retail is going to be usually 100 and up. I mean, 100 to 150. Yeah, we deal with a lot of that.
And you're always giving a concession for closing costs?
If you're below 150, you can pretty well count.
Yeah, that's what Dutch told me. He's like, the cool thing and the advice I got from Dutch, he was like, "Bro, if you don't," he's like, "drop the price, like close the deal." And I'm like, "Dude, no, I'm pissed off. Like it's not, it's the principle." Yeah. Like if they would have just genuinely 30 days ago said, "Hey, it's 105. Okay, let's do it." You're paying retail, okay. Mm-hmm. I bought it for 70, but that's another point. But the deal is, it's just a principle.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Bro," he's like, "You're going to have to remarket it. You're going to sit on it for 3 more months with holding costs." And I just refinanced it. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, is this a statistical situation where I need to stay away from 100 and something? Because then a friend of mine just flipped a house she got it under contract for 150 and sold it for 185, and she made $30,000.
Yeah.
I mean, like, wow, those are great numbers. But who has 100? But see, she had the seller had to sell their property first. They had to wait for their closing. I mean, I'm assuming this is a lot of retail stuff. How many deals actually don't go down?
I don't have very many of them that don't actually go to close, but we're super picky about going through everything when they send us an offer. We want to find out who they are, what they are, and make sure that they're good.
And you check their financing, make sure it's like ironclad.
Yeah, we get permission to talk with their lenders. And the other part of that is, after a while, you learn the red flags to kind of watch for. So if an appraisal is not ordered on time, I want to know why. Because typically what that means to me is they don't want to fork over the money for the appraisal because they're not sure they're getting financing. So if things like that start happening, inspections don't happen on time. I'm fixing to be pulling the plug pretty quick.
Okay, so that's what I should have done, and that's where Dutch was trying to coach me. He's like, bro, there's a miscommunication between the lender and the two realtors. The selling realtor should have brought this up, and the buyer's realtor should have communicated to my realtor to bring this into fruition that there is a low appraisal or lower than the contract price.
Yeah.
And so your staff is on top of that. Like if you get a house under contract or before it gets under contract, you are.
Yeah, we do everything we can to avoid having a problem.
Right, because it's just all the costs and it goes up again.
Yeah, I mean, it's
start all over again.
In any business, the biggest thing you can do is pick good customers.
Right on.
So spend your time doing that.
Well, man, we can go on. I cannot wait to have you. I'm going to be a little bit more organized. I apologize.
Yeah, sorry. I hope
you got me twisted right at the gate. Just like Brian Nix. I'm like the whole goal for me to interview Brian Nix was to go over financing. Yeah. All right, I was writing a book on banking, and he has 60 units. I'm like, dude, like they're all private money. What? Mm-hmm. We should have did a private money class. I mean, podcast. I would have been way more prepared because Pat's been beating me up over private money, and I've learned so much from him. And so have you done a private money deal?
Yeah, I've got $300,000 or $400,000 of private money.
Cool. Is it as easy as what they say it is?
I like it. I like it a lot.
You're in control.
Yeah.
What kind of money? What's the rate on it?
8.
That's awesome. And did they find you, or did you find them? Or
most of that's family. I've had some other friends that have loaned us money in the past, and I mean, I haven't aggressively gone out and looked for it, but that's just
you don't need to. I mean, that's me too. It's like, man, I got banks. You got banks calling you. I mean, I love. Remember the one time I ran into you at Great Nations Bank? Yeah, I was just refinancing a deal there, and boom, there you are. And then I'm in a meeting with McLean Bank. Boom, your name comes up. I'm like, who is this guy? We buy houses. Anyway, this is Justin Gentry today on the Savvy Radio Show. It's been a pleasure. You are a very gracious man. I'm indebted to you. It's hard to articulate. 14 units. I'm over, $100,000 in credit card debt, trying to finish this rehab, and I can't rent it out. Mm-hmm. And I was so desperate to tears. I mean, literally, diarrhea was the real deal. I don't just say that. I mean, and people are like, "This is going to be a great property." I've never owned an apartment building. I don't even know how to rent it out. I don't even want to live in an apartment, let alone try to figure it out. And you helped me with staging. You helped me with pricing, and I remember these words ringing in my head. They'll be on my tombstone. It looks like, Steven, you got a low income property. I would probably drop that rent down $50. And it was just so stupid, easy. And man, that has been a blessing. That we call that property in the Van Callenberg household the legacy property. And I there may be an investor that just asked to buy that property the other day. Yeah. I mean, and he probably retail. Yeah. And nope, I'll let you know. Yeah. But thanks to you, I almost sold it for real. I almost walked away from it. I almost walked away. I mean, I was. You didn't. I don't know if you could tell on my voice, but I was dying. Yeah. And I had no idea what I was doing. I thought I knew what I was doing. This is just 14 little cribs in one place. I was over budgeted. And anyway, the story's in my book, but man, I'm really just so. When I see you, I light up. So you know that you have impacted my family. Will have lunch and dinner because of you.
Well, I appreciate that. That's awesome. I'm glad I could help.
All right. Anyway, do you want to help anybody else? Is there a phone number, email you want to give out? You want to stay hidden underground or in your hunting shack somewhere?
No, people can call me whenever they need to or text, whatever.
All right, text him. Don't call him because he's busy. Lay that phone number down.
249-2447.
He's Oklahoman, 405.
Sorry, yeah, 249-2447.
And if you're in somewhere else and you have a short sale burnout, he'll buy it. If you have an apartment building, it better be like a tenth of the value. But if you're building and you want to grow, he would love to partner, maybe in the future. Yeah. You can always need backers. So anyway, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I will have you back. sooner than you think. And whatever you do, buy assets. Thanks, Justin.
Thanks.
Investor Weekend is not far off, with over 10 information sessions to increase your portfolio. Log on to www.investorweekend.com. Whether you are a seasoned investor or never purchased a property before, you don't want to miss the Investor Weekend. Join us for a powerful, knowledge-packed weekend with over 10 informational sessions that are bound to enlarge your real estate investments. You will hear from the best national and local real estate investors that will share practical and relevant experiences with you, the investor. There will be several networking sessions to connect with other like-minded people for potential funding, partnerships, and yes, hot deals. Go to www.investorweekend.com. Did you know we meet once a month for the Landlord Lunch Meeting? The third Wednesday of every month. Go to landlordlunch.com.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.